think you're live on here.
Okay, I think someone's just said marhaba to me
I'm on this live.
in the comments. Okay, listen guys, I am here. I think we're live. I can see hundreds of these little comments. I can't read them from all the way back there. Let me skip forward a little bit. Oh, this is just Liz telling me people, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Dr. Justin Thomas, this is Sakina. Okay. Well, listen, oh wow, there's obviously quite a few people joining the room, so that's fantastic. I'm going to introduce myself and then I'm going to get started with this session. So, again, apologies for the beginning, it was a little bit ropey. Wasn't sure I was live, and we're live. But the other thing I wanted to do was just introduce myself and then say a little bit about the session. And then walaikum salam, and then ideally open it up to like a Q&A discussion type thing. The other thing I'll say before I start as well is the phone. The phone has like 65% battery, so I don't know how good the battery life is. So if it just goes black and we disappear, that'll be the explanation. So first things first, me. My name's Dr. Justin Thomas. I'm an experimental psychologist. I'm also a health psychologist, a chartered health psychologist with the British Psychological Society. I've also got a postgraduate qualification in cognitive behaviour therapy, CBT, with the University of Lancashire, and I have recently graduated from Bangor University's teacher training and mindfulness course. And I don't say all of that to be a chagag, to be big head. I just say that to be so you've got a little bit of an idea about my background when I'm going to talk about some of today's topics, and the title of the session is the mind-body connection. I'm looking at things like how that interacts with sleep and with stress. So that's the main. I'm getting distracted by these comments. I'll have to not read them for a short while. So mind-body connection is the topic, and but what I'm going to really try and get, I'm going to talk for a little bit because I think the value of this sort of medium is more for it to be interactive and a bit of a discussion going on. Chagag, it's one of my favourite words. So yeah, mind-body connection and stress. So I think the first thing I'll do is to talk a little bit about stress, and it's one of those words that we throw around all of the time, don't we? And again, even before I rush off, step back. The context for all of this is that we are right now for many of us in a very stressful time. So it's can be quite a stressful time that we're enduring now. For many of us, lockdown, worrying about our own physical health, maybe concerned about loved ones elsewhere. So there's a lot going on, and I think that's why, again, this type of forum is particularly useful in this time when there's so much uncertainty. It's time of great, when will this end? What will things be like when it has ended? What will happen if, there's all of these questions popping off in many people's heads. So undoubtedly for many of us it's quite a stressful time. So again, the topic of stress is really a useful one, I think, to focus on. But I'm not going to forget about this context. This context is everything. This COVID-19, this lockdown, that is the context for this discussion. And so, but I'm going to carry on talking about stress, because it's a word that I've already used it, thrown it around quite a lot. But what do we actually mean by stress? What is stress? The whole idea of stress is something that psychologists have borrowed from engineering, muhandis. So the concept of stress is really an engineering term that psychologists have borrowed, and they use it to good ends. And in terms of a definition of stress, the textbooks tell us that stress is the body's non-specific response to demands for change. That's a key to understanding what stress is about. first part of that is the body. Yeah, stress is always felt in the body. There might be all kinds going on up here in our head, lots of thoughts, but the body is central to stress. So this idea of the body is non-specific, second word, non-specific. How I show my stress, people telling me they're extremely stressed, you and me both. How I show my stress, or how my body, if you like, how I embody stress, or how my body reacts to stress, is fairly unique to me. So when I'm stressed in particular situations, I might get hot and I might sweat, my heart might beat fast, my fists might clench, and everybody's quite different. And different types of stress or might elicit in us, might bring out in us different levels of stress, different types of stress. But really key is it's not specific. It will affect us in different ways, almost like maybe not as unique as a fingerprint, but the body has its own unique way of expressing stress, and that it's important. I think I'm emphasising this because it's really important. The body is really important in all of this, because sometimes, and I'm glad somebody called Aisha said she's extremely stressed. There are other people that sometimes don't realise they're stressed. So I think the first stage to, if you like, being able to do something about being overly stressed is to recognise or to realise or to be able to spot, identify that we are stressed. And the place that's done, Fija said, in the body. We'll notice our stress in the body in different ways. Ideally, if we can notice it early enough, if we can notice our stress early enough, we can do something about it before it escalates, before it becomes bigger. Yeah. So this is our first idea here, is the body's non-specific response, and then that last part, demands for change. Yeah. Demands for change. So sometimes the demand for change is something that excites you, mutahammasa, makes you excited. It's still the body responding for change. Of course, by hayawan and evil people around us. That's a great point. It really is. We'll talk about causes of stress definitely as part of this, but the idea of non-specific response to demands for change. What are the demands for change? It can be almost anything. But look at the demands for change that have been placed upon us right now in this current situation. Even if, often what I do with my class when I'm talking about stress is I'll say to the class, and we could do this as a little experiment, I'll say to the class, close your eyes. Yeah, and so you'll kind of find that people close their eyes, but some people, they don't close their eyes. They're like this. Yeah, they wait, they watch other people, and then there are other people who close their eyes and then open them and check. But there are some people you say, close your eyes, and they go, they close their eyes fast, really quickly. Yeah, they close their eyes really quickly. They're experiencing that demand for change in a positive way. So some people, the demands for change, again, non-specific. Some people, what stresses some people out will be another person's best day ever. And I've seen quite a lot of people talking about this on social media, saying, I'm an introvert. All of this is fantastic for me. So the things that are going on around us are probably, for most of us, stressful. Maybe not for all of us. For some people, they might kind of be okay with the massive demand for change. No going to the mall, no sitting in coffee shops, no going to stress. The topic is, we're talking about stress, and then we'll eventually get onto some ways for managing stress. But I really do, I'm going to open it up for comments and questions. I'll give you guys a question here, because some people have already started throwing comments out that I think are really valuable. But what stresses, exactly, that's a good point by Doina. Demand for change can be good, and it can be experienced positively. So psychologists have different words. So you have eustress, which is that stress, the body changes, we feel excited, we feel a sense of, oh, this could be good. And then you have distress, which is, oh, this is going to be terrible, and overthinking and all that other stuff. But again, a big part of this is the demand for change. And the idea that we all, I think most of us know intuitively that whatever this thing that's happened is big, things are going to change. Yeah, what's that going to be like? no one's 100% sure. So there's lots of uncertainty. When there's lots of uncertainty, there's excitement and or there's anxiety. But listen, the question for you guys, some people have already given me great answers, I think, but what are the things that stress us out? Generally, examples. I've read some people saying, I read someone comment, toxic people. So this session, for anyone who's joining the session now, the session is about mind-body connection and stress. Tawatter, I think, in Arabic. I know a few Arabic words, so when I know an Arabic word, I'll throw it out there. Social media, controversial videos, managing stress. Okay, they're the responses to the... So my question is, what are the types of things that stress us out? What stresses us out? If you think about the current situation that we're in now, the lockdown and all this sort of stuff, the pandemic and the stuff that goes with it, what is stressing us out? If anything, what are the types of things that are stressing us out right now? There you go, my parents, university. What else? What are some of the things that are stressing us out about this situation that we're in? Social media, lack of rest, working from home, the unknown, tawatur. You're good at Arabic, wallah, shukran, I appreciate that. My question is, what are the things that are stressing us out right now? So not having control over the situation, senior projects, people with dark or negative people, toxic people, lack of appreciation, presentations. So we still uncertainty. So again, some of the themes, the news, these are key, aren't they? These are key things that are coming up. The news brings our attention back to certain things that are going on. Change is the most stressing thing. Financial instability, financial insecurity, thinking about the virus. Yeah, I mean, I know for me, every time I go to the supermarket, I start to really feel the stress in the body, my shoulders hunch up, not knowing when this will end. Yeah, how long are we going to be on lockdown for? Not forever, but how long? We don't have definite answers, do we? Having to step outside of our comfort zone. Yeah, that's a lot of great answers there, really, a lot to think about. And I think that what you've kind of put in play there are the things that we see even outside of this particular context that we're in now. Uncertainty of the future, change, yeah, corona, the unknown, fear of the unknown. Yeah, so much. And just to share with you a little connection to some of these ideas, is that we did a study in the UAE, and this background for this, we know that what we call stress reactivity, yeah, how we react to stressful situations, is a predictor of psychological problems like al-iktiab, like depression. Let's just call that extreme stress. How we respond or how we react to small stresses is a predictor of problems. So some people can let things go easily, some people don't react in a big way to stresses, and other people, they do react in a big way to stresses, and that's quite predictive. That tells us a little bit about potential coping. Yeah? And so it's a really useful thing to study. So one of the things that we've looked at in some of our research is what we call daily life stressors. So these are the things that stress us out on a day-to-day basis, and we looked at that specifically in the UAE to find out what was number one, what was Rakam Wahid, what was the number one thing that stressed people out. And most of our studies are amongst university students, so it was not a representative sample. you know, not the whole UAE, but Zayed University students. Can you please pin the question so we know what the topic session is about? I think we pinned it. Sorry, guys, I don't know. I was meant to pin the topic, but we're talking about stress. We're talking about stress reactivity, how we respond to stress, and we're talking about the mind-body connection. So we'll get to this idea that our body is the place where stress kind of manifests itself, or where we can detect stress. But back to the point I was making about small stressors, daily life stresses, things that stress us out on a day-to-day basis. We looked at so there's lots of little things that can stress us out, like your phone battery running out, the internet not working properly, you know, lots of little things can stress us out on a day-to-day basis. What do you think is the number one? What do you think is, when people fill these istibyan questionnaires in, what do you think comes out as the number one daily life stressor? I want to study psychology. I'm a senior professional, but not sure where to take my master's. Sorry, I can't help but read some of the comments. But my question out there is just, again, what is the number one? Not being able to do activities we are used to do to release stress. That's a key. That in this current time right now, that's a huge one. Not being able, sometimes maybe not even being able to go for a walk. Do you speak Arabic? أحاول أن أتكلم اللغة العربية وأدرس اللغة العربية في وقت الفراغ ولكن لست أتكلم بالطلاقة. I can't speak fluently, but I can read and write better than I speak. أكيد. So the question, I'm sorry I can't pin the question, but I'll just repeat the question a couple of times, but just to think about it. What do we think is the number one? What do we think is the number one stressor? I'm not talking about big things like the death of a loved one. We're talking about small things, things that potentially happen every day. Yomiyan. What are the big daily life stresses that we face? Anybody? What's the big daily life stressor that we face each day? I think when we looked at our research, number one, and see if you might relate to this, number one stressor, being out of time, attendance, money, they were there, and like something like mental illness is not daily. The news can be a daily life stressor. I'd agree with that. That's a good one. Traffic was number 3, great answer, because these are things we have to deal with on a day-to-day, but traffic is not so bad now. Money wasn't, maybe it was our sample, but money wasn't up there. It wasn't one of the options, I don't think. Like right now there is. Right now, lots of these are for right now, but under normal circumstances, a lot of them aren't there. Not getting an A. Yeah, it's not every day, is it? Not every day you don't get an A. Maybe it is for you, I don't know. But I think the number one, and I think you'll relate to this, the number one stressor is al-akhirin. Showing off my Arabic again. Other people. The number one stressor, daily life stressor for most people, was family arguments. Maybe not themselves involved in the arguments, but listening to other people. That was the number one daily life stressor, and it is in many other nations when you look at these types of things. So this is our interpersonal reactions, are the things we stress other people. We are the greatest source of stress to other people, and other people are the greatest source of stress to us. So in terms of like taking that knowledge, taking that idea and putting that to work, like one of the things we can do to, if you like, at least to reduce stress levels is simply to be kinder and nicer to each other, and to kind of let things go rather than get embroiled in arguments, because maybe our argument with the person doesn't stress us out, but maybe other people who have to listen to that are getting stressed out by it. And I think one of the big challenges we've got, and many of you are mentioning this, is that, you know, we're often now in this particular time, we're confined, aren't we? If we're social distancing, we're in the house generally, and there's lots of people. Yeah, these social relationships in the house. We can get on each other. You know, we can get on each other's last nerve. Other people can really stretch us. And again, we're saying other people, but we are other people too. You know, we are the source of stress for other people. Washing groceries, is that what stresses you out? Washing the groceries? I actually like doing that. I don't mind that. Like, going to buy groceries is the hard one. Expectations of others towards me too. Other people's expectations. Yeah, when we break other people's expectations, they get angry. When other people don't meet our expectations, we might react to that also. And I think in terms of, you know, taking care of each other, just understanding that we might be the source of stress for our loved ones, and they understand that they might be the source of stress for us, we can maybe help each other out. And there's another really good point there, because this is another issue related to the current context. But some people are alone in quarantine, social distancing, social isolation starts to creep in, loneliness perhaps, which is another stressor, which is another huge stressor. You know, feeling that other people are being able to be connected and have, you know, interaction. Other people belong to a group, and we're maybe isolated and out of that. And again, that's another challenge for many people right now, how to deal with stress caused because of the family parties working in as a health provider. So yeah, so coming on to dealing with stress. So sometimes you can't be kind. It's very true. And well, there's a point there. The other person in front of us doesn't deserve kindness. So that's something to think about. Is there a person that doesn't deserve at least neutrality? Yeah, just to be at least left alone, as opposed to challenged. I'm alone 45 days, miss family arguments. Yeah, I mean, that's another state, isn't it? That's a whole other level of, so we're talking about how we can stress each other out, but then when we're disconnected from each other, we can really deeply miss each other. Self-compassion and taking a break is needed more than ever. I totally agree. Yeah. And I think that being kind to others comes, you know, from being kind to ourselves. We need to gift ourselves whatever we need, whatever we can gift ourselves, whether that's time, whether that's space, you know, within the context of where we currently find ourselves, not beating ourselves up, yeah, giving ourselves a little bit of compassion and kindness, and then hopefully if we can do that for ourselves, we can do that for other people too. What about the insecurities? Fear of getting infected as well. That's another big one, isn't it? That's a huge one. That's not going to go away quickly. That fear will linger, I'm sure. And again, the simplest thing we can do, we can't know for sure, but we can at least follow the guidance. We know about all of the steps we should take to, if you like, to minimise, to reduce our risk, which is where I want to connect now. I want to connect what we've been talking about stress. I want to connect that now to the body and to physical illness, if I can. And I want you to just to imagine, it's like kind of like a thought experiment. Just imagine that I took a small knife, and I would never do this. I took a small knife and I cut your hand. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine I take a small knife, 100 people or so, I take a small knife and I cut your hand. You have a small cut, not too big, not undramatic, just a small cut on your hand. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wait to see who heals quickest, whose cut scabs up whose skin knits itself back together quickest until they're scab and scar free, and that's going to take some time. Yeah, but the thing is, if we do that to 100 people, some people are going to be really quick. Some people are going to be fast and heal quickly. Other people are going to heal slower, for sure. And we know that because this is, okay, I'm doing this as a thought experiment, but this is a real experiment that has been done. And you find that people who are stressed, people who are experiencing a lot of stress, I want to choose my words carefully, it's not the stress, it's our reaction to the stressful situation, our stress reactivity. But people who are highly stress reactive, who aren't able to let it go and keep it spinning around, keep that, if you like, that, have that like kind of outpouring of anger or that, you know, kind of anxiety, and sit with it for a long time, kind of keeping it alive with thoughts, they heal slower. It takes them a longer time for this is the body is slower at recovery. So again, so think about this, another similar situation, so that stress will actually physically reduce our ability to heal. Physically reduce our ability to heal. And if you think about it, it's another little thought experiment to play with. So imagine again, we have a room full of 100 people, and we spray my experiment sounds terrible, like kind of some kind of evil scientist, but we spray the room with rhinovirus. And rhinovirus is just what they call the common cold, but it's infectious. So we spray the room, let's just say 500 people in the room, we spray the room with rhinovirus, and the 500 people mingle, ha 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 ha. We're trying to infect them on purpose. Not everybody will catch the cold. Not everybody will get the rhinovirus. Some people won't get it, for sure. And we know from research that the people that are least likely to get this virus, this is the common cold, rhinovirus, are those people, again, who are less stress reactive. Those people who have, either through their birthright or through some learning or through some practice, have learned how to manage their stress reactivity. So the less stressed ones are the ones who are less likely to catch the cold, the rhinovirus. If you're students, some of you will know this, I see this every semester. As we get towards midterms or as we come towards the finals, you start to see people with tissues. You start to see people physically with colds because they've worried themselves and stressed, been so stress reactive that they've lowered their immune system. The body's immune system is affected by stress. We become more susceptible. So just like we heal slower when we're stressed, we're also to infections. We're also more open to infections if we're carrying the stress reactivity with us. Our body becomes more vulnerable. Okay, and a third example, and that's again, it's another true experiment that's been done. A third study, which I only read about today, was sorry, I'm gonna be quiet in a minute and just let you ask some questions, but this is the main point I'm trying to make here. There was a study done only last year, 2018, and it was looking at the flu, the vaccine. So we're all waiting for a vaccine, aren't we? We're hoping and we're praying for a vaccine for COVID-19. It's going to take a while, but when there's a vaccine, hopefully that will really help us. We can get vaccinated and we can go about our business. That's the plan. And there's a vaccine for the flu. So influenza already has a vaccine, but vaccines sometimes are not 100%. So the vaccine will give you protection. A vaccine will give you protection, but not always it's 100% that you won't get the illness. And again, it's not my area. I'm not I'm not a specialist in immunology, but it's a study I read today because it's connected to psychology. And in this particular study, what they did, they had elderly people who need to be protected from influenza, and so they gave them the vaccine. But they were, and only, I mean, it's quite surprised me, but between 17 and 50% of people it's successful for, that the vaccine is successful. So between 17 and 15% this vaccine is successful, and for lots of people it isn't. But what the study was interested in is what predicts success. Yeah, what predicts the success of the vaccine. And in this, again, really well conducted study, the best predictor of the vaccine being effective for these elderly people was their mood. Yeah, was the, if you like, the lack of stress and the increased positivity. So their mood actually, if you like, interacted with the vaccine. You know, their immune system was boosted by being in a good space. So this has real implications for us, as well as all of the stuff that we're doing to take care of ourselves and each other. One of the other things we should really prioritise is managing our own stress levels. And there's different ways to do that, but the simplest and easiest one is to reduce the stressor. And the number one stressor, the number one cause of stress for other people is you. You're the number one cause of, and me, okay, and me too. We're the number one cause of stress for each other, but we can also be the number one cause of upliftment and you know, support. Yeah, and this, again, for me, I think this is what's useful about this. We're preparing for battle rather than healing. Yeah, and we don't want to fight each other, do we? Not in this time. This virus is killing less number than flu and car accidents. Why the world panic? And yeah, I don't know about that. I think you really need to read a little more deeply. It's not about the numbers. It's not about the numbers now. It's about the potential numbers. So we need to act now to protect. You know, car accidents aren't infectious. One car accident doesn't cause other people to have car accidents. It's an isolated incident. But this infection can grow exponentially. The more people have it, the more people get it, and vulnerable people die, and those numbers can become really big, really quickly. And that's why I think there's a lot of anxiety about this. I think we're wise to take as many precautions as we can, and we are. And I think what I'm trying to do as a psychologist is I'm trying to throw another one out there for you, which is the psychological element. That really, if we want to boost our immune system, we want to boost other people's immune systems, then we can do that by being, by at least not making ourselves a source of stress for other people, and better than that, going one beyond that, actually being a source of comfort to other people, to each other. Yeah. I mean, you've seen some great examples, haven't you? I've seen some great examples in Dubai, particularly, of people going out on their balconies and playing music for their neighbours. You know, I think this whole idea of people trying to take care of each other during this time is really what will get us through it. You know, and we know the doctors are out there taking care of us. They're still going to work. The nurses are still out there taking care of us. You know, and there's a long list of people. Every day I go out to throw my garbage out, the bin men have been. They're still out there. They're working. Some people are working harder than ever. You know, they're taking care of us. We're taking care of each other. The ladies in the supermarket, not always ladies, the people who work in the supermarket, you know, that's front line right there. Imagine, I'm stressed when I go to the supermarket. I am, honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I'm stressed when I'm in the supermarket. And I think about the people that work there. If they all decided, oh no, we're not going to work there, you know, things would really, really come to a bad end quite quickly. So again, we've got to be grateful for all of these people out there on the front line: nurses, doctors, cashiers, bin men, refuse collectors. All of those people, there's a lot of gratitude to be felt towards all of those people that are keeping the story going, and everybody else as well. All of those people, all of you out there who are staying in your homes and following the guidelines, because you're then part of the solution. You're keeping other people safe. So my biggest enemy is my inner me. I think all of us, yeah. I don't know why I laughed when he said you. Yeah, you. Yeah, you're the problem. You really are. We are the problem, but we are also the solution. A lot of this is about our behaviour. Yeah, our behaviour, the way we behave towards ourselves and the way we behave, and we're interconnected. We are with this. I think one of the things for me about this crisis, it shows us how interconnected and interdependent we are. You know, if the people in Fujairah or Ras Al Khaimah don't play ball, you know, the virus goes away, and then, you know, it'll come back again because some people didn't play ball. So everyone's, you know, this is again, this is it has to be a unified, joined up effort. Listen, ask me some questions. I think, well, let me see if I want to make sure I've made my key point here. My key point was that stress affects the body, reduces our immune system, which would make us more susceptible to illnesses. Yeah, stress, our reactivity to stress is something that we can work on managing. I think, in terms of how to manage stress, steps to reduce stress. Yeah, I mean, again, stress is, like, again, non-specific. So in terms of how to reduce stress, it can be very different for different people. For me personally, number one way for me personally to reduce stress is to meditate. I practice mindfulness, and nothing will make me less stressed than mindfulness. Looking at nature will also make me kind of see this bigger picture, see a bigger picture, and realise that, yeah, it's not worth tying myself in knots over. But again, in terms of, I never get preachy around what to do to manage stress, but we do need to manage it, and there are different ways. Exercise is a good one, physical exercise, working out, art, you know, something that takes our attention, takes our focus away from the negative thoughts, unpleasant thoughts that sometimes perpetuate stress. You know, how dare she say that to me? Haywana, blah, 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 blah. You know, if you take that attention and put it somewhere else, the stress level will slowly start to go down. If you keep your attention on the thing, the stress, it prolongs it. At least it can amplify it, make it bigger. But even if it doesn't make it bigger, it prolongs it. Why do you feel we're doing? Why do we feel doing nothing most of it? Yeah, but I think that's a good thing. You know, honestly, I think in the modern world we just constantly do. We're always doing stuff. It's not a good thing that we're on lockdown and all the rest of it, but if we can take one good thing from it, it will be just to value being. You know, if that's not everyone's got that luxury, but it's some time, it's quality time with ourselves, and a little bit of soul searching perhaps. Like, not for everybody, but I think that's one possible positive. Oh my goodness, the time hasn't gone. It's still 6:30, isn't it? But listen, so I wanted to just recap some of those key points. Let me just recap some of those key points. I want to make sure something lands at least, you know, because again, it's the first time I'm doing this, so it's perhaps a little, I don't want it to be too incoherent. So again, my main points, just to recap: stress, people react to stress in different ways. If we're highly stress reactive, it can be problematic. We need to try and manage that. Lots of different things stress us out, but we are often the source of stress. And so by being kind to each other, we reduce some of the stress in our lives. We'll never get rid of all of the stress in our lives, of course not. But what we do have some control over is how we respond to stress. And that was kind of, the other point we were making was that this stress that we sometimes experience, it affects our body, it affects our bodily functions, even our sleep has something to bring in. Our sleep patterns, you know, we'll start to wake up earlier, we might not be able to get to sleep because we're stressed out, and again, that's going to have an impact on our physical health, on our ability to heal, on our ability to fight off infections, our immune system, and on our susceptibility, you know, how susceptible we are to infections, again, and also how effective vaccines are in working for us. And this whole area of psychology, which is known as psychoneuroimmunology, is really important to what's going on right now, and it's something we can control. It's something we can do something about. We can do something about our stress reactivity. Okay, so listen, mindfulness, I mean, that for me, that's one. I mean, again, choose your medicine. You know, but I think mindfulness is a good one. And again, you find mindfulness can be walking about, mindfulness can be prayer, mindfulness can be, I like this idea. For me, there's a concept, an Arabic concept, ihsan, excellence. So you can do anything with ihsan, with excellence, And that could be writing, it could be making a cup of tea, but you do it with absolute excellence, so you're trying to do it the best it can be done. If you try to do things with ihsan, with excellence, you're putting all of your attention there, you know, you're giving it your full attention. You're not doing this multitask mind all over the place, worrying about what's next, worrying about what happened in the past. Again, that happens, that's natural, it's human nature, but often it can become problematic. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of good points being made about diet as well, again, to take care of the body. Often what we eat will affect our mood, will affect the way it will maybe enhance our stress reactivity. You know, we're feeling all itchy and weirded out because we've had some, you know, kind of really unwholesome food. Depending on the situation, that could make things worse. So yeah, the opposite is true. Probiotic rich foods. Talk to someone who makes you happy. Yeah, why not? Talk to someone who makes you happy. I think that giving it to somebody else is always a little bit dangerous, because what if that person's busy? What if they're not there? Maybe part of it is, that's definitely good sometimes if that person's available, but being able to be kind to yourself and being able to, you know, say something to yourself that makes you happy, is also, you know, a useful thing, especially when that other person isn't there, or they're in a bad mood. That'll really damage when you go to your happy person and they're in a bad mood and they snap at you, leave me alone, you're always on my case. Not that they would do that, some people would never do that, but yeah. But listen, I'm open to, I think I've covered most of the structured piece that I wanted to go over. And I hope the message, honestly, I sincerely hope the message has landed. It's quite a simple message. For us to be stressed in these times is not helpful for ourselves and for other people. And if we can find ways to help ourselves and help each other reduce our stress and each other's stress, it's going to be easier. It's going to be a little bit easier for us to get through this. Thank you so much for calling my talk innovative. Initiative. It is a good initiative. I think it is. I think it's a better initiative because of the participative element. That's what makes it. I mean, it creates something when we can talk to each other. And I apologise if I've missed some comments, but I think talking to each other is the most important part. Great insight, much needed during this time. Thank you so much, Tahani. I appreciate your comment. But ask me if you've got any questions, please feel free to just type them in there. Now I'm in that space where I feel as though I've delivered what I wanted to deliver, and I'm totally open to any questions. We've got still about 20 minutes left, so I'm really happy to take any questions that you might have. It is a weird time, isn't it? What a weird time to be alive, hey? But also opportunities for the future, you know, to do things better. You always give a great picture of the things around. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the comments, I really do. They're really positive. Ask me a question. Even if you don't want to know the answer. If you ask me a question, I might say something that's really beneficial to one of the other people that are reading. You might ask me the question that makes me say something that really helps another person. I think that's us co-creating. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for turning up and for keeping it lively. Avoid toxic people and avoid social media manipulated content once we notice. And being mindful. I don't know. I'm not going to challenge. I think there's some good advice, and sometimes I think avoid toxic people, but even better if we don't avoid them. You know, because these poor toxic people end up all alone, isolated and damaged if we all avoid them. But again, we have to take care of ourselves. If we don't have enough in us to, you know, to be able to be around toxic people. But again, toxic people are people, and perhaps if we're kind to them and listen to them and give them attention, and if you like, take on board some of their toxicity. If we're no one's being a masochist here, but if we can, then perhaps that can be helpful. Don't avoid people, be neutral towards them. Okay, neutral is better than avoidance, I'll take that. I'm going to say even be kind, even, I mean, what's this, the thing is though, you've got to be careful, because if someone is going to damage you, then obviously there's common sense, we have to take care of ourselves, or we're not able to take care of anybody else. But yeah, I mean, I often see this advice going around that says surround yourself with positive people. Like, but if we only choose the positive people to surround ourselves with, the poor negative people get left out, don't they? And I want to know who these people are who can surround themselves with people. That's a gift. If you can surround yourself with people, you probably don't need to. Thank you. I think we need multiple ways to be mindful too. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think one of the things, I hesitate to use terms like mindfulness, because very often people have a stereotyped image of what it is. That's why I use the idea of ihsan, or we could doing anything where having something where we place our attention. That could be walking, that could be our exercise. It's it becomes bigger than us. We take our mind from the self-focus and put it on and kind of put our attention onto something bigger. There was a story, great needed session. Thank you, helped a lot. There's this one story that I heard that always sticks in my mind. It's about attention and where we place our attention. But if you imagine you've got a toothache, so imagine your toothache's, many people have had toothache, it's one of the worst pains in the world, and you're like, oh, you're thinking about your toothache, your attention is on your toothache. So imagine you've got this toothache, and then all of a sudden someone bursts into your house with a shotgun. Am I back? It says live. Maybe everyone's gone. Hey, I apologise. Apparently we had some technical difficulties, and I think I was like this with my shotgun on the. So I hope that doesn't get taken out of context. It was part of a joke, yeah. The toothache. If you had a toothache, and then someone comes in with a shotgun pointed at you, your toothache vanishes. That was the context. So that was, we were talking about al-intibat, attention. We're back. I think we're back, and we've only got a couple of minutes. So I just think this is a really, I don't know what happened, magic, sihr. I think this is a really useful thing, so I would just like to say thank you to the organisers for doing this. I honestly think it's a great thing to do. And again, I know as a psychologist, I know one of the things that really helps us, not necessarily manage stress, but to keep us well, irregardless of stress, is our sense of connection to each other, as our sense of belonging, a sense of being part of a group, a sense, we call it social identity, and that really gets us through. And I think one of the things that's coming out from this and from initiatives like this is really that sense of our connection as a group. Whether that's here in the UAE, and you see similar scenes in different communities around the world, is that people in communities really feeling that sense of, we're in this together. We all feel this, perhaps, in different ways. Some of us are grieving, some of us have, had this much worse than, for example, I have. But at least one thing we can say is that we're kind of coming through this together, and the ability to talk, although this is not ideal because we can't hear other people's voices, but to communicate with each other like this does strengthen that. It really does, that sense of belonging. So I don't know what else to say, guys. I honestly don't. I think it's just been an interesting experience for me, and I hope some of what I've said was beneficial. I think we've got a couple of minutes left. I mean, I just can't say enough in terms of my own gratitude for all of the people that are keeping the show running, the healthcare professionals, the people in the supermarkets, the people who are still, you know, kind of keeping the roads maintained, the people doing all of the, you know, what's it called, the deep cleaning of the cities. You know, again, lots of frontline people who are out there that are making these things, you know, still, our society still function in you know, in a good way. So far so good. We're all still, most of us are still healthy. Well, listen, I'm glad I got to come back and say goodbye, rather than the last image. The last image you had of me was the one of me with my pretend shotgun. There's a lot of people still joining, alhamdulillah. It's good. I'm glad. Honestly, the people who work in the supermarket, they deserve. I mean, healthcare. I'm not saying that, like, healthcare professionals, of course they do, but the people who work in the supermarket, 100% too. That's a difficult job right now. That is a difficult job. You are heroes, seriously, and you're keeping things going, stopping it from falling down. Okay, do you know what? I have to admit, I have to own up to you guys. I'm new to Instagram. It's totally new to me, so I can just see lots of people waving, and I guess that's the universal icon, isn't it, for goodbye? You get it now. Sorry, it's slow to connect. Well, listen, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad that you guys attended, and I hope there was some benefit in this for you. Thanks for supermarkets. Listen, if you do one thing, if you do one good deed after all this is over, when you go to your supermarket or wherever, the refuse collectors, all of these people that have kept us going, say thank you, give them a gift. No, seriously. I mean, everybody. You too. Stay safe, Aisha. Take care. Okay. You need your own account. I do, don't I? I should have my own account. Thank you. It's hard to treat stress in a supermarket. My God, I don't know how you cope, honestly. I don't know, my hat off. It's a really difficult time. Okay, I think we're out of time, so I'm going to say final goodbye. Honestly, really appreciate the interaction, and some great comments and things were made there. Okay, take care.